Hello everybody, Rizzod the RC vlogger here. We're looking at my Generation 1 Traxxas X-Maxx, and today I'd like to talk about the newly announced Generation 2 X-Maxx that will be coming out in February of 2017. So hang out and let's have a chat. And right now it's December of 2016, and Traxxas also announced a power-up kit for anybody that currently owns an X-Maxx at this time. It comes with all the goodies that are going to be added to the new edition of the truck. I guess pricing for that is $300 from what I can tell, and you'll be paying a $175 core charge and $5 processing fee. So got an X-Maxx right now, you're going to pay $480. They'll send you the kit. Once you send them your old speed controller, the VXL 6S, back, they will credit you $175. So you're going to pay $305 for all these upgrades. But before I get into the upgrades, I want to compare this to a situation that's happened with Traxxas in the past. If any of you are old enough to remember when the T-Maxx first came out, that was 1999. The original T-Maxx first came out was in 1999. So same thing, that was a new platform, everybody loved it, it was a big hit, selling like crazy. People were breaking things on it because it was a new platform, and they were figuring out their own solutions for things. Aftermarket companies were making a lot of upgrades that were really helping the truck as far as durability and going faster goes. Traxxas did release a version 2, Generation 2 of the T-Maxx, but I think that was in 2003. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was 03 when that came out. So 99 to 03, it took 3-4 years for Traxxas to come up with a revised model that had a bunch of the upgrades on it to release as the Generation 2. Now here, fast forward to the X-Maxx situation and the way it compares. The X-Maxx came out in December of 2015. It's now December of 2016. It's been out for a full year, and they've already announced a new version 2, Generation 2 of the truck with a bunch of upgrades on it that guys have been doing to it. So I just want to compare that. I think Traxxas is responding a lot better now than they used to. This time it only took them a year to come out with the version 2. With the T-Maxx, it took them 3-4 years to come out with that version 2 that had all the upgrades on it. Alright, so now that that story's out of the way, let's talk about what's different. Okay, first on the upgrade list, obviously, is going to be the speed controller. In my truck I have the original VXL 6S, and a lot of people joke about this all the time and say it's like a ticking time bomb and it's going to burn everything down. I haven't experienced that with mine. Mine's been no problem from day one. I did install this fusible link that Traxxas came up with after those first couple of fires. Haven't had any problems with it. I have not updated the firmware on it. I don't know, haven't had any problems with it, so why mess with it? The new speed control obviously is going to be an 8S. Wow, that's a lot of horsepower. Then again, this is a big truck, and I know people want things to go fast. Me personally, I don't plan on upgrading to that 8S speed controller because 6S is plenty for what I do. I do a lot of big jumps with it. I bash through the yard a whole bunch, and I play in the snow with it a lot, and 6S is plenty for me. 8S would be nice to be on tap if you're going to go out somewhere really wide open, but I don't really do that often, so I don't think I'm going to change. So next in the upgrade kit, the fans for it. Everybody has been putting these Castle 2028 fan shrouds on their stock motors on the heatsink, and that's really been keeping temperatures under control. I've not had any problems with mine. I think the new Traxxas one will look a little more factory because it won't be hanging on with these zip ties like that. Again, I don't think I'll change that because it works, you know, until I break a fan or something. I'll probably just use this one. The next upgrade is my personal favorite, a center differential. Now, I'm not positive what this differential is gonna entail. It looks different than most differentials I've seen. Looks like it's got like cooling fins shaped into it, kinda, around the case. I think that's a good idea. Looks like something that will help dissipate heat in the oil. When you get a truck this big and you start hammering on that center diff, that oil's going to heat up. I think that's a really good idea to have those fins on there to dissipate heat. It's also going to have steel gear. That center drive with the differential in it is going to be steel gear now. I've not had any problems with the plastic gears in my truck, but I know a lot of people have. Bearings freeze or whatever, and then they heat up and the plastic melts and you lose your mesh and everything goes south from there. So I think that steel gear is a great idea. From there, you get the steel spur now, and the slipper clutch has been eliminated. Looks like they're going to use a cush drive. I think that's a really good idea too. Normally when you have a 3 differential setup vehicle like this, you don't need any sort of slipper, but in a truck this big and heavy with tires this big and heavy that are spinning really fast, I think adding that cush drive with the center diff was a really good idea. So now that you're going to have steel gears in there, you don't really have to worry about those melting anymore. The big plus that I think having a center differential, let me just give you a quick little story. My truck has a slipper clutch in it right now, and it's a wheelie monster. You can't really take off at full throttle, because if you rip full throttle from a dead stop, the truck's just going to flip over and not going to do much. So when you're trying to accelerate really fast in a short area, you have to feather the throttle to keep the front end down, and it's really hard to get it up to a high speed in a short distance like that. When I jumped over my house with it, I had a short run up and I was feathering the throttle so much that I couldn't get it up to full speed. I think if I had that center diff in here when I was doing that, that would transfer power around and I could just hammer on full throttle and not feather it at all, and I think I would have had a lot more speed by the time I got to the ramp. So center diff I think is a big deal. Someone on the Traxxas forums did mention they seem to think that it's a torsion diff or torque sensing differential. I'm gonna highly doubt that just because of the cost for torsion diffs. When I run 8-scale buggy, I've looked into torsion diffs and they were so expensive. I mean, apparently they help handling a lot because they don't just unload to one side. You don't have to worry about tuning with the oil. But they're expensive. Man, I think it was like $180 for one torsion diff for an 8-scale buggy back when I was real big into it. I just couldn't justify putting 2 of those into a buggy. I can't imagine putting $400 worth of differentials into a $600 RC kit. But if it is a torsion diff in the new X-Maxx, wow, you guys are in for a treat. Also get a new lower bulkhead for the rear. I guess they had to change that to accommodate the larger bearings that you'll get for the center differential. Next upgrade on the list is going to be these your ring and pinion on your differential. A lot of people have been trashing those on 6S. The guys that have moved up to 8S already have really been trashing them. My personal experience with them, I think I've broken a couple. I broke one set of the stock gears and I broke one set of the spiral gear diffs. But each time when I broke them, it was a huge jump and I was at full throttle when I hit the ground. And when those tires go from full throttle to that much of a stop, those gears take a huge hit. That's the only time I broke them was when I was jumping. As As far as ripping through the yard on success, I've not had any problems with them. Here is a set that I did manage to break. Like I said, this was coming off of a big time jump, and when I landed the wheels were at full throttle and it broke that tooth off. And once you lose a tooth on your differential pinion gear, everything goes south from there. The picture of the new ones that are supposedly upgraded looks the same as these stock ones on the version 1 of the truck, but I guess they've made them harder somehow. They must have done some more processing on them to make them harder. So we'll see how that works out. Next upgrade on the list is these differential output cups, or drive cups, whatever you like to call them. Again, they look the same as these old version 1 pieces. Apparently they've heat treated them differently or done something to harden them and make them stronger. My personal opinion, I've not had any problems with these in my truck. I've done all kinds of stuff and I've never hurt one of those. I still have all 4 original ones that my truck came with. And they're not really whopped out at all. I've seen a lot of guys that, that wear these down where the pin rides, but mine's worn a tiny bit, but not enough to be a concern. And I do have quite a few miles on this thing, as you can see. The next thing that they've upgraded are these steel axles. They look the same again as the version 1 parts, so it's probably going to be a nightmare when you're ordering parts to make sure you get the generation 2 version of the part versus the generation 1. Everything, I guess, is going to have a way to tell the difference. But they look the same. Some people have been saying maybe they're thicker. Again, that is a steel piece, so maybe they have done some more heat treating to it to make it harder. So I guess we'll see. My personal experience with these, I've never broken one. Actually, I've never broken one. I did bend one really bad off of a really awkward crash. Again, big time jump, and I landed cockeyed, and I don't know, it must have taken the whole hit because I bent this whole drive shaft, or this whole axle. I bent the whole thing when I landed. And it didn't break, it just bent, and it still ran, but when it was turning, it was like wobbling really bad. So, I don't know, I don't think anything's wrong with these stock pieces, but again, moving up to 8S, stronger is better in that area too, I guess. Next on the upgrade list is going to be, I don't know if you can see them through there, right where my driver's pointed, these blue stub axle. The blue stub axle part there. So here's a spare that I keep. Not really sure how they can upgrade this. It is made out of aluminum, so I don't think you can harden aluminum the way you can steel, and I don't think it's going to have bigger drive pins in it, just because in the pictures they're not showing that the power-up kit comes with new pins. So if they were to put bigger pins in, the kit would have come with them. Not sure how that's gonna do. Maybe it will come with the pins that are larger and it's just not a picture. I'm hoping that's the case. I've not really personally broken a lot of these pins. I've only broken it one time. I had just taken my slipper clutch apart, and when I put it back together it was too tight. I wasn't even jumping, I was just bombing through the yard, and I heard it snap. Broke that drive pin. Apparently a lot of guys are breaking those, especially the guys running 8S already. I don't know. I've not had that problem, even with my big jumps. And the last thing on the upgrade list is a nice looking wheelie bar. I like the setup that they came up with. Looks really sharp on there. As far as wheelie bars go, me personally, I never run a wheelie bar because I'm not a wheelie kind of guy. Don't get me wrong, it looks cool when a big truck like this rears up on its back tires, but I'm not the type to try to ride them out for 1,000 feet. I don't know, I don't get that, I guess. So I won't be getting the wheelie bar. So now I'd like to talk about a couple of areas where I think Traxxas missed on the new Generation 2 X-Maxx. First one is first one's near and dear to my heart. These shock shafts. People have broken a ton of these and put me in that category. Of course, I don't really blame the truck per se for that, because I am pushing the limits by jumping this thing as high as I do, and when you crash from such big air, I mean, anything can happen. But for the Generation 2 X-Maxx, I wish they would have addressed that and come up with a different shock shaft design so we would not break them quite as easily. But every time I break that shock shaft, typically I break the control arms too, so those are big hits. I don't know if we should expect that to survive, but I wish they would have made those stronger. I did have one landing that broke the shock shaft, but I didn't crash. It was about a medium-high jump, probably maybe 7 or 8 feet up in the air, and I landed on all 4 wheels, and that shaft broke out of nowhere. I don't know what caused that. I have it on film. I had my camera right on board when that happened. It was kind of cool when it landed. You could see the shaft break, and then the shock swung out, and you could see the spring fly off. I thought that was kind of neat. But yeah, I wish they would have addressed those shock shafts and made them a little thicker at the bottom. And the last fail that I think they missed is going to be on these screws that mount the body down to the body mounting mechanism here. I wish they would have addressed that with some kind of washer under here, because these are not holding on to very much Lexan. So when you crash, these pull through and rip the Lexan, and then you got nothing to hold it down with, so you got to put these ugly washers on. A lot of guys put nice washers on. I guess you can get off of eBay. People have come up with their own. This is what I threw on because I had it laying around, and that's been working fine. Wish they would have addressed that with the new Generation 2 truck.